Chapter 4. What labels are you wearing? Let's begin our journey by taking a look at one particular rule that most people typically accept as a fact. We'll hold up this rule to the light of Hashem's reality. As we do that, we'll realize that even though this rule is widely accepted and believed, it does not belong to us. And we'll see that by aligning this belief with Hashem's reality, we invite peace, security, joy, love, and dignity into our lives and into our relationships. Who are you? When you're asked to describe yourself, what are the first words that come to your mind? The words we use to describe ourselves are like invisible labels that we wear around our necks. The quality of our life revolves around them. Some labels weigh us down. They suck the joy of life out of us. Other labels fill our hearts with light and warmth. They lift us up. They give us energy. When you're having a good day and you look into the mirror, you'll see that you're wearing a pretty label. Wonderful person, good wife, success, fantastic mother, capable. Such a label frames your self-image in a luscious peach color and makes you feel like being kind to the people around you. On a better day, your label is dotted with periwinkle Swarovski crystals. It fuels your creative spirit. It inspires you to be persistent and courageous. And then there are the times when your day is definitely not as you would like it to be. What kind of label are you wearing then? It's ugly, shameful in some way. It might say worthless, punished, failure, dumb, loser. Once that label gets stuck onto your neck, it hangs there, an ugly smudge that you wear as if it's part of your skin. You're resigned to the nuisance of its presence. Wherever you go, in whatever you do, it's there until a better label lands and replaces it. What invisible label are you wearing today? As you read the whole list of words in the preceding paragraphs, as you listened to the list of words that I just said, which words did you feel connected with? Which words stirred your heart and made you say, that's me? What are some of the labels that you've been wearing recently? Can you see how you feel and how you engage in your life differently, depending on whatever words you're using to describe yourself, whatever label you're wearing at the moment? The big question is, where do those labels come from? Who gets to decide who I am and what I'm worth? Who gets to decide if I'm good or bad, if I'm beautiful or ugly? The prevailing rule about this is that our labels come from the people and the situations we live with. If we accept this rule, this belief, as our personal truth, our feelings about ourselves will depend on people and situations. Our rule about feeling worthy will be we can only feel good about ourselves when the people and situations in our lives relate to us in a way that makes us feel good about ourselves. According to this rule, people and situations in our life have the power to give us our sense of dignity and respectability. They also have the power to take it away from us. Our sense of emotional wellness is at the mercy of other people's behavior. Our feelings about ourselves are dependent on circumstances beyond our control. Let's expand this thought process a bit more. If it's possible for another person to give or take away from our dignity and worthiness, then it's possible for our value to change, which means that our value, our worthiness, is conditional. Our value depends on the people and the circumstances in our lives. Years ago, when I lived in otherness, I submitted to this rule, so I know it well. In those days, I had a big, broad collection of labels. Any label could belong to me, any kind of label. If an important person in my life said it, or if a situation proved it, the label was mine. I often felt good about myself, but that feeling was random. When I was ignored, mistreated, or when I was misunderstood and judged harshly, I felt worthless. It was as if I had no choice about which labels I could wear. If someone was an important someone in my life, then his or her words and attitudes towards me were my labels for that day or for that hour. If I pleased a someone, a gold star-studded label landed on my head. If a someone rejected me, if a someone was upset with me or disinterested in me, I lost my value. My value fluctuated like the stock market. Subconsciously, I would watch the screens of people's attitudes towards me like any other stockbroker. Of course, I'd feel resentful towards the person who had caused my value to plummet. Oh, there were times when my own behavior could give me a label too. I could give myself a pretty label if I accomplished something, when I found myself to be useful to the world, if I met my expectations of myself. But my accomplishment was only important and useful if other, respectable people thought it was important and useful. My expectations of myself were other people's expectations of me. So I did not have much say in the labels that I wore. My rule, like Ilana's rule and the prevailing rules of society, was a recipe for stress, chaos, and agonizing inner suffering. But of course, I didn't realize it at the time. I did not notice that I had a rule about labels. And since I didn't know that I had a rule about labels, I certainly couldn't change my rule. The truth about who we are. Is it true that we are defined by what people think of us or by what happens to us? Is it possible for a person's value to change? Are we more respectable when we achieve and accomplish more and less respectable when we do less or have less? Are we more dignified when more people approve of us? Let's filter this rule through the ultimate rule we want to live by, the truth of Hashem's reality. Hashem is our one and only power. He, and only He, is the one who causes humanity and physical objects to be in our world. Nothing can exist, not even a paper clip, not even for a split second, without Hashem directly causing it to exist. Even though His awesomeness is so far beyond our comprehension, we know this one thing for sure. Hashem's value is incomparably greater than all the people and all the things on this planet put together. He creates and sustains it all. He is infinitely worthy and respectable. Imagine if we take everything of value in the entire world and we place it on a set of scales. All the gold, silver, minerals, money, power, everything would be included. If we could put a number on that value, it would add up to gazillions of pounds. What happens when we place Hashem on the other side of the scales? Hashem is infinite, limitless. Hashem is everything. If we're measuring value, then Hashem overwhelmingly tips the scales over the value of all value in the entire world. What does Hashem's value tell us about ourselves? Everything. Each of us is a complex, multifaceted individual with many important parts. At the core of our being, we carry an actual part of Hashem, known as our godly soul, our neshama. Just as Hashem's value outshines anything else in the world, our neshama's value outshines anything else about us. If we're measuring value and we put every part of ourselves on one side of the scales, with our neshama on the other side, our neshama's value is infinitely greater. No matter how significant or impactful any part of us is, our neshama's value takes up more space. It matters more. And since Hashem is infinitely, unconditionally worthy and respectable, each of us is infinitely worthy and respectable. So here's a summary of Chapter 4. Many people believe that external circumstances can determine our personal value and respectability. If we buy into this belief, we are saying that our personal value and respectability could change. We're saying that our value and respectability is dependent on other people and on situations beyond our control. The truth is that Hashem is infinitely, unconditionally worthy and respectable. There is a part of Hashem within each of us, and therefore, each of us is unconditionally worthy and respectable. Here are some questions to reflect and connect. Self-definitions are like labels that we wear around our necks. What are some of the words you use to describe yourself? Which of your qualities makes you feel satisfied with yourself? What kind of labels do you give to your children, your spouse, your workmates, or other people in your life? Here's a little exercise to grow your awareness. The next time you're upset with yourself for any reason, notice the words that you're using to describe yourself. The next time you're upset with your husband or your child, notice what words you're using to describe them in your mind or with your words. Ask yourself, am I describing the behavior or am I describing the true identity and value? How are my words being spoken? How are my words being understood?